Okay, so this painting is called Pearl. I called it Pearl because she's wearing lots of pearls and she's kind of pearly colours, which are sort of lots of pale pinks and blues and greens and stuff. We're going to start off by painting in our background, and to get this lovely kind of sea colour, we're going to use white and green and blue. The blue I'm going to use is called cerulean. It's like a sky blue colour, and I'm going to use some of that. I'm going to cover my whole canvas in that, or paper, and then what I'm going to do once that's dried, I'm going to start to paint Pearl herself. The first thing we're going to do is paint her hair in. So we're going to paint the slightly darker shade in after we've painted the background. And then while that's drying, we're going to come down and work on her tail. And then we're going to work on her body. And then we're going to put this other layer of lighter hair on her, and then pop in like her scales, her pearls, her fish and her bubbles, all those kinds of things. So what I'd like everybody to do is grab their palette or whatever they're using, and you need to get out some white, some blue, like a sky or a turquoise blue if you've got it, and also some green. So I'm using a colour that's called sap green. It's quite a dark green, but that's kind of what we want. You can also use, if you've got something, so this is called fallow green. It's like a bluey green colour. Any kinds of greens that are green or bluey green work better than your lime and yellowy greens. So I'm going to be quite generous with the amount of white paint that I give myself. You can see down there at the bottom. I'm also going to be quite generous. I want it to be a real bluey green colour. So I'm going to give myself a nice squirt, move my palette around so you can see it, a nice squirt of the cerulean blue, and then I'm going to give myself a good squirt of the green.
Tony?
Yeah?
We don't have cerulean blue, so can we use, we only have ultramarine blue.
Have you got any other blues at all? Just ultramarine?
Just violet and what's that one? It's a pearl. No, just violet other than blue.
Okay, yeah, go with the ultramarine. That's quite a dark purpley blue, so you're gonna end up with a much darker colour, so add more white. Okay, cool. Add more white than I'm adding with mine, and your colour won't be as bright as mine. So it's totally up to you. You might actually be better off, rather than using a greeny blue, just go with white and ultramarine and have more of a lilac-y blue.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
Amy?
Yeah?
We do have sap green, but we do have sap green.
Okay, well, you can use that, but you're not going to be able, with ultramarine, you won't be able to mix the same colour as I've got. So it's up to you. You can use the green and the blue, but it'll be a bit more sort of sludgy coloured. Whereas if you were to do it more lilac tones, it would be a bit sort of brighter and it will make a nice kind of colour. It works really well if you wanted to do it that way. So please do, if you want to have another look at the canvas at any point, please don't be shy, just say, and I can get it out for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my white paint, just a small amount to start off with, a big splodge of my blue and a bit of my green, and mix those together. And that should give me this bluey green colour. Okay, when I'm kind of happy with that and I think I've got enough, I'm going to do the same thing again. So, but just remember, so if you did a lot of blue and a little bit of green, then do the same amount again. And you want to kind of just start to get that same colour. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of white to it. And do you know what? I haven't poured my water out for me. So let me just pop those there. So it's a good job I keep this here. So, and then what I'm going to do is add a little bit of water, and I want to make my paint kind of like the consistency of yogurt. That's the best way to describe it. And I'm going to start, so I'm going to use a really big brush, and I'm going to start in the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to start painting with my jadey colour. So this is a lovely sea green colour, and I'm only putting on enough paint to just cover the canvas. Okay, I don't want to drown it, I just want enough, because if I put too much on, then it will take hours and hours to dry. So I'm going to work my green colour up and use just enough paint that it covers the canvas. You do actually make it really tricky to paint if you have too much. And when my brush starts to run out of green, like this, what I'm going to do is take a bit more white, add it to my green colour, so it's a bit paler, and now I'm going to carry on in that same direction as I've been doing, and I want these streaks. I want to keep these streaky bits because this looks like sunlight coming through water. And then what I'm going to do, add a little bit of blue to my green and a bit of white. So just slightly changing the tone as I go. I'm still getting paler as I go across, but I'm just changing it so it's a little bit more bluey toned. I'm going to add a bit more water and a bit more white paint and go again. And I'm still keeping these streaks from my paint in my painting. And I'm keeping painting in this diagonal. So, and I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm going to just keep adding little bits of white each time I go back to my brush to get a bit more paint. And every now and again, I'm going to add a little bit more blue as well. So get some more, dip of blue, and I'm just adding, just dipping the very tip of my brush into that. And don't forget, I know I keep saying it, but don't forget, don't paint with loads and loads of paint. You only need a small amount of paint. So I'm going to use a little bit of the darker again now. And then I'm going to go back to the pale. So I'm getting, if you've ever gone underwater in a swimming pool, you know you get these stripes of light where the light shines on the water. And that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get these streaks of light in the water coming through. I just think we'll be able to all go swimming again soon. Just in time for summer. Not long till they say that we're allowed to like open swimming pools and things like that again. That's going to be so cool. I can't wait. Don't forget as well, if your paint's starting to get a little bit sort of thick and sticky, add a bit more water to it. Painting's tricky enough without making it even harder by having your paint too thick. And you can see I'm getting paler and paler as I go. I'm going to go now with white and blue. Oh, it's starting to get really blue now, mine. Look at that, different colour. I'm still going in that same direction. Bit more white, getting paler. Oh, lovely, lovely sea colours. If you do get too much paint on your canvas or your paper, don't panic about it. It's not the end of the world. It's really easily sorted, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute, how to sort that problem out. It's very common for people to do that, particularly when they're just starting out painting. And the more you paint, the more you realise that you don't need to have masses and masses of paint. Sometimes you do. So sometimes you have loads because that gives you the effect that you want, but other times you don't need much. So if you have got too much paint on your paper, get yourself a bit of kitchen roll or tissue, and all you need to do is hold it over your paper, rub the back, and then peel it off, and it will take off any extra paint that you don't want. And you can do that a couple of times with a different tissue, or turn the tissue over, and you'll be able to then brush back over with your paintbrush. Don't grab more paint, just work with what you've got, and that will help to make it dry much easier and give you paint that's workable. So I'm just going to go back down here. I've got a bit of a sharp edge, so I'm going to just brush over that. And then when you've finished that bit, I'm just going to wipe out my brush, get all the extra paint out that I don't want, and then go and give it a wash in my water. The reason that you do this is it helps to keep your water nice and clean. It also helps you to look after your brushes a bit better as well. So saves you having to keep changing your water all the time. So sometimes when you're painting, and this is my second painting that I've done today, so sometimes it's quite nice to get up and have a walk around and stretch your legs, but we don't need to with this one. So particularly when you're painting pastel colours, they get they change kind of and get dirty really easily. So it's a good way to keep your paint your paints nice and clean. When you've done that and you're ready, give me a thumbs up. Cool. Yeah, awesome. Cool. I can see, oh, someone's just, oh, Cara's internet's just crashed. So hopefully your paint is starting to dry out a bit now. It's not the end of the world if it's not totally dry, because we're going to paint in quite a similar colour, and that will give the rest of it time to dry. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint our mermaid's hair in, or start to paint it in. So if you look, you can see we've got a slightly darker blue, well, I say darker blue, darker pale blue underneath, and then over the top here we've got a lighter blue. So this lighter one, because it comes in front of her face, we're actually going to paint that at the end, but we're going to do the background first. So I'm going to use some of the same colour that I've used here in my background, but I'm going to add a little bit more of the blue to it. So Nurja, what you could do is you could maybe add a bit of your violet to it, so you've got a very small amount, just a slight different shade. And you can go a bit freestyle with your hair where you want it to go on this one. I'm going to switch over to a slightly smaller brush. Here we go, Cara's back now. Oh, we hope. So I've got a 1/2 inch flat brush that I'm going to use for this. So, oh, looks like she's having some problems logging in. So what I'll do, I'll catch her up when she does get back in. So I'm going to use some of my background colour, but I'm going to add a bit more blue to it. So it's still pale, but it's just got a slightly more blue colour, blue tone to it. And then what I'm going to do, so if you imagine in your canvas or paper, you find the halfway, right in the middle, and pop your finger on it. And then what I'd like you to do is find halfway between that and the top of your paper. So kind of there. So if this was in quarters, there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. There she goes, she's back. So all we've done is we've mixed up a slightly, added a bit of blue to our background colour. And we've found the middle of our canvas and then found halfway between the middle and the top. And we've just stuck our finger on there and we're going to just put a little mark of blue. Okay. So where you've added your blue to your background, it should be just ever so slightly darker. And what we're going to do is paint the back half of our mermaid's hair. So it doesn't matter if your canvas isn't perfectly dry, because this isn't a million miles away and it doesn't matter if we smudge a bit. So from that dot, I'm going to start to put in some lovely wavy lines like this. Okay, and I'm going to just follow that same shape that I've done, and then the next one I'm going to flick out. And if your paint's starting to get a bit thick and sticky, then just add a bit more water. I'm going to go follow that line again. And then I'm going to go out this side a bit. So where I've not mixed my colours brilliantly, so they're a bit streaky, but that's great because it gives us some really interesting shades going on with our hair. So, because you don't have to paint things in flat shades all the time. Makes things really interesting if you start to put different colours and shades in. And then I'm going to come out. So I've got a bit like an octopus shape. And then on the left hand side, I'm going to do a big arch. It's going to come out like that. So make some of these longer. So the longer you make them, the longer your mermaid's hair will be. And if you want to, you can add a little bit more of your blue to it, and you can run some of that through as well. So it's quite subtle at the moment, what we've got. But it'll look really cool later on. So this is going to be the darkest shade of our mermaid's hair. Again, don't paint really thickly with this because we need this to dry off so that we can come back and paint over the top. When you've done that, give me a thumbs up. Cool. That's a good thumbs up there, Melody. Very decisive. You're looking at me like, how do you know my name? So while we're just waiting for everyone to finish that off and for us to start the next bit, I'm just going to talk to you about what we're going to do with the tail. So our tail is totally and utterly up to you which colour you want to do. So I would say, though, whatever you want to do, keep it a palish colour. Add white to whatever colour. So if you want to have lilac, use purple and white rather than going for just purple. And the reason is that the white will help the colours go over the top. So if you want to keep it pink, there's two ways of doing pink. You can either use a magenta and white, which will give you this kind of a purpley pink, or you can use red and white, which will give you a much more kind of corally pink colour. So up to you to use whatever way you've got it. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint our mermaid's tail, and we're going to paint her fins, but her fins we're going to paint once, but her tail we're going to paint twice. And the reason we're going to do that is we're going to have bits of our background showing through her tail so that it looks a bit transparent, but then her tail's going to be really solid. So if you remember, we found the middle of our canvas, which was there, and then at about halfway up, we started to put in her hair. So what we're going to do is find halfway again, right in the middle, and we're going to remember that that's going to be where her belly button is. Okay, that's quite a good thing to sort of know, that the middle of our painting is our mermaid's belly button. So while we're leaving that to dry, we're going to mix up our tail colour. So you can either go, you can go whichever colour you like, but I would go with a pale one with some white in. So I've got some white paint and I've got magenta, so which is this kind of pinky colour, or you can go for a red and white if that's what you've got. I'm going to put the two colours next to each other on the palette. So if I turn this, twist this around, you can see them just here. I'm going to carry on with my 1/2 inch flat brush. Make sure it's had a really good clean out after you've used it for the hair. And what I'm going to do is mix some of this pink and white together and give me a kind of a mid pink. And then I've got my dark pink and my white for making more shadows and highlights. You okay?
Ellie,
Yeah?
I've made it a sort of a pale pink.
Sorry, hold it up. Let's have a look. Oh, lovely. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, mine's quite pale as well. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to start off with this pink. I'm going to find the middle. So I'm going to imagine those two lines and I'm going to find the middle of my canvas. I'm going to put a little spot of paint there. That's to remind me later on that that's where my tummy button's going to be. Okay? And just below that tummy button, I'm going to paint a circle. Any ideas why I'm painting a circle? Anyone? Go on then. Melody's friend who's got a hand up. You're on mute, so I can't hear you. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Because you're doing it for the belly button.
Yeah, so what's below your belly button? You've got your tummy and your hips, haven't you? And if you look at our mermaid, this is where her tummy and hips are. So if we do a circle, we know how big they are. And then we're going to make this circle down into a point for her tail. So that's what we're going to do next. So again, if we imagine that's the middle, halfway down, we're going to go just below that, pop a little spot, don't have too much paint on your brush, and we're going to join that spot up with a curvy line to the side of our circle. And then we're going to do the same on the other side, but we're going to curve that in. So we're going to go like this and down and round to a point. So, and then you can fill that in. So don't worry if your paint doesn't go perfectly flat at the moment, because we're going to come back and give this tail another coat of paint. So from the point of our tail, we're going to loop up. So we're going to paint like a bit of a smile. Let me grab a bit more water. Yeah, we're going to add a smile that's going to come up like that. And then we're going to follow that back round to. Okay, from there we're going to now come back round to the point of our tail, but what we want to do is scoop. So we're kind of like a crescent moon almost, but we've got that little flick on the end for her tail. So we're going to go big, 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 and then narrow like that. And then you can fill that bit in. So just like with the background, I'm not using masses and masses of paint, because actually what I want is for my background to show through a bit, because then it'll look like she's got a nice transparent fin on her tail. Mine's got a really big tail. Cool. Give me a thumbs up when you've done that, or let me know if you want me to go over that shape again. Oh, hold it up, Nirja. Oh, lovely. Fantastic. Okay, so what we're going to do now is do her other fin, and I'm going to take some of my slightly darker pink that I had. So do you remember we put it separately and then mixed it on the side? I'm going to just scrape some of that off so I don't have too much on my brush. And then I'm going to do a bit more of a crescent shape, but coming out this side. So kind of like, if you imagine this is a banana that goes that way, we're going to have a bit of a banana that goes the other way. So I'm going to point this out with my brush. Again, not too much paint. I'm going to have the point of my banana just like that, and then I'm going to brush that in to my lighter one. So, and I'm going to join it up, and I've got this tiny little amount of paint on my brush, and it's going to just rub over the top of the other fin like that. So we've kind of got one fin going on behind the other. So this looks a bit weird at the moment, but when we come back and put some more lines on it, it'll look really cool.
Hey,
Yeah?
can I show you my painting?
Oh, yes, please. A bit higher. Oh, lovely. Fantastic job. It's hard when you do these paintings where you kind of work in bits and then link it all up together at the end. So it's a bit hard sometimes to know which bits to add where. But what we really want is this tail to get thinner as it goes down, and then get like really thin, and then get big and fatter for the tail at the end, just like a fish's tail. So you guys, has your tail, this bit here, has that dried, or is it still?
Mine's still wet.
Okay, as it's still wet, we're going to come back and do that afterwards, okay? So what we're going to do is now go up and work on our mermaid's body. And for that, we'll need a different shade of pink. We need like a flesh coloured pink. So as you can see, we've got a different one. So if you've used a red and white to get your pink, then what I would say is take a little bit of that and add a little bit of brown to it. So she's more kind of tanned. If you've got if you've been using some of this pink, like I have, and you've got like a magenta pink, take a little bit of that and add a little tiny bit of red and a tiny bit of brown to it. Okay. So, or you can just leave this for when we come back to the tail and just grab yourself some more white and red and brown. So I've got white. You want a lot more white than you do your other colours, because those will change the colours change the white really easily. So giving myself a tiny amount of those and making sure I've got a nice clean brush. I'm going to mix those together. I'm going to add a little tiny, just like the tip of my brush, with the red, and that will give me this nice pale pink colour. And then I'm going to do just the tip with the brown, and that should give me a kind of fleshy colour. If you've gone too dark with it, take a little spot over to the side of your other side of your canvas and then add a bit more white to it there. So if you want to, you can add a bit of yellow as well. That might help. What you'll find is when you paint her over the top of your background colour, she'll go like a colder colour than what the paint you're using. So if you want to add a bit of yellow, add just a tiny spot. So mine's looking a bit kind of mink colour at the moment rather than flesh. So there we go, that's a bit more fleshy coloured. And once you've got a really good colour, then add a bit of water and get it to the consistency that you want. When you've got your flesh colour, give me a thumbs up. So that was quite a big splodge of white, a good splodge of white, a tiny tip of a brush of red and a tiny tip of a brush of brown. And if it's still looking too pink, add a little bit of yellow to it. Nirja, you're better off just unmuting yourself if you've got a question to ask, because
Tony, I wanted to say that I used flesh tint.
Okay, that's cool. Give me a thumbs up when you guys are ready. Yeah, cool. So, yeah, excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to use kind of like a middle-sized brush, a round one. So I've got one here, it's a number 5 that I'm going to use. And actually I'm going to go for a slightly bigger one. So I've got a 6. I'm going to go with a number 6. And do you remember that that point that was halfway between the top and the middle? What I'm going to do is do a circle around that with my flesh colour. So kind of the same sort of size as the one we did for the top of the tail. So nice round circle, you can fill that in. Again, don't panic if it's not going flat, we can come back and add a bit more, add another layer of paint if we need to. So our mermaid's quite cartoony. She's not very sort of realistic looking. So to create the shape of her face, which most people don't have a perfectly round face. Most of them, you have a chin. So what we're going to do is basically from the sides of our circle, we're going to do a little line down each side. So I'm going to angle mine slightly. And then I'm basically going to do like a very flat triangle. So I'm going to curve off that middle bit there, but that will give us our mermaid's face. So don't forget, she's going to have loads of hair over the top of this. So it doesn't matter if you go a bit wobbly, particularly at the top. Oh, lovely. Emma, if I were you, I would go even bigger with that. I think you could go even, because she's quite cartoony, so you could go even bigger with her face if you wanted to. Yeah? So you want it to at very least be the same size as her hips, if not even bigger. She's a cartoon, so she can live with being kind of, yeah, that's cool. So, and then do your two lines. So 2 lines that are pointing down towards this bottom left-hand corner from each side of the circle, and then like a little 2 sides of a very flat triangle for her chin. Oh, lovely. Fantastic job. Excellent. So we need to put in some body, because at the moment she's a lot of hair and tail and face and not a lot more. And what we're going to do to get her body in is we're going to start off by drawing a line from her chin, and it's going to go have a little bit of a wobble. So we're almost doing like her spine. It's going to come out and down to the middle of the circle that was her hips. Okay, and once we've done that, we're then going to do another line that's going to go straight out up towards her face, and then we'll do a line that comes in. We'll use a smaller brush to do her fingers, but that's what we're going to do to start off with. So we're just breaking her down into simple shapes, which is all that art is really. So from her chin, I'm going to do a bit of a wobbly line that's going to come out a little bit, curve round and join up with the top of her tail. And then from that, just dropping down a little bit, we're going to do an arm, the top of her arm. So don't use too small a brush. Or if you are using a small brush, do a few strokes. You don't want to have really skinny arms. So I've left a little bit of a gap for her neck, and then I've done her arm, and it's gone out kind of, if you imagine from the middle, about 1/3 of the way out towards the canvas, edge of the canvas. And then from that, I'm going to have her arm coming in towards her head again. So I'm going to put her elbow here. And this line's going to be a little bit thinner, like that. And then from that, it's almost like we're doing like a triangle that's getting smaller and smaller and smaller in a spiral. And then this is going to be her wrist, and her hand's going to come in next to her face. And then we'll put some fingers on those, but we'll do that with a smaller brush later. When you've done that, give me another thumbs up. Cool. She's got quite a short arm, Emma. I'd make your arm a bit longer and bring it in. And don't worry about where you've done it before, because you can always paint her hair going over that bit. Yeah? So don't panic if any of you guys go a bit wrong, because you can always, she's got lots of hair, we can always hide it with some hair. On the other side, so yeah, that's better. That's cool. You could go even longer if you wanted to, but that looks much better. Right, on the other side, we've got her neck, and then we're going to have this arm coming down and across her. So we got a shoulder to do this side. So we're going to come out in a little bump, and then we're going to come down, and you want to make sure that this is the same length as that. So what might help, if you get another brush and you line it up with your fingers to where that arm is, and then turn it round on its side, and you can line it up and see where you want the next line to be. And that way you've got two arms that are the same length. And then we're going to go across. So again, we want the same length here going across. So, and remember, it's a little bit thinner than the arm we've just painted. I'm going to get that elbow in, and then we're going to bend down towards her tail for a little bit, and that's going to be her hand. And we'll put her fingers on later. Oh, awesome. That looks really good. So all she's missing now is a bit of a body. So on that spine that we've done, what we're going to do two little circles, like a number 8 that's laying on its side. This is going to be where her seashells are. So 1, 2, like that. And then we're going to come in and go out again. So we're going to go from her seashells, we're going to come into where her spine is, and then out to meet her tail. So she's got very thin waist, this one. And we'll do the same on the other side. So we're going to come in, meet her spine, and come out like that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to round off this bottom bit here. This is where her, remember her belly button earlier? This is where her belly button's going to be, and also where her body meets her tail. So before we move on, if there's any bits of your paint that have dried and need another coat, just to get it nice and flat, you can do that now. So we're going to go down and work on her tail for a bit. So that will give this all a nice time to dry, so we can get it all lovely and flat. So make sure you've got a little bit of this left over in case we need it later on. What actually I think we'll do is we will switch our brushes over to a small fine one for a minute, get her fingers in, and then carry on with the tail rather than the other way, just in case your paint dries out. I'm using a much smaller brush. This is just a number 2 round, using the same paint. And this is, so those of you who don't, who haven't painted with me much before might not know, I used to work for Disney and I used to draw princesses. And if you look at Disney princesses, they always hold their hands like that because it's much easier to draw them with their fingers together, or they might be like that, but they'll always have at least 2 fingers together. And that's how we're going to paint our mermaid, because it just makes it much easier for us. So I'm going to come down from my hand that I drew. I'm going to do 1 big triangle like that, and then 2 little strokes either side. So, because a hand, whenever you paint, fingers can end up looking a bit clawy and horrible, but if you make them 3 like that, or 4, they look much nicer. So, and then we're going to do the same. So we're going to have a triangle on the bottom of our hand. This one we're going to have a thumb in as well. So we're going to have a finger with a much thinner line there, another finger here, and then we're going to move up a little bit because our thumbs are further up on our hands, and we're going to do a line coming in that's going to be a thumb. Okay. So don't panic if those aren't looking absolutely perfect, because we've got lots of jewelry and pearls and hair and things like that that you can cover any mistakes with. When you've done that and you're happy, give me another thumbs up. Cool. Excellent. So I can see 1 thumbs up, but I can see Dell is still painting. Are you ready to move on, Dell, or do you want me to wait a minute? Yeah, you're fine? Okay. Are you doing 1 painting for you and 1 for Melody? No? You assist? Oh, okay, cool. So we're going to switch back to our pink tail colour now. So hopefully your tail has dried off a bit. And what we're going to do, we're going to go back to that 1/2 inch brush that we were using earlier, and we're going to go over this tail again. But what we want to do is put a little bit of tonal colours on it. So we want to use our same colour here. The middle, we're going to have a bit of a white paler pink, and then to the right hand side we're going to have a bit of a darker pink, you know, like we did with our tail over here. So you might find that your pink has started to dry out a little bit. If that is the case, like mine, I'm just going to mix up a little bit more. So grab myself a bit of white and pink, get roughly the same colour again, and I'm going to very carefully just go up the left hand side of my tail, just like that. Get a nice edge on it, and I'm going to brush just up into the body. Then I'm going to take a little bit of that pink, I'm going to add some more white to it so I get a much paler pink, and I'm going to paint up the middle. So you don't forget to scrape your paint off. So this is to try and make her tail look a bit shiny, and I'm going to do some strokes going up, just like I did before, into her body so it sort of fades in. You can go along the edge if you want to. Oh, I did a little smudge. So I'm going to go up like that. So we've got these different shades of pink. And then I'm going to wipe my brush out because I've got too much paint on it. And then I'm going to switch over to my darker, and I'm going to use the darker on the right hand side. So just like this. Just getting this nice. When we come to put her scales up over the top, this will look absolutely awesome. So if you want to blend your colours, just give your brush a bit of a knock my paint over, bit of a wipe out, and then just rub between. You want to take all the extra paint off before you do that. Otherwise you just kind of make it all one colour. Once you've done that, using those same 3 colours, we're going to just go and put some lines over her tail. So this is up to you whether you use a thinner brush or you use that same thick one but work with it sideways, whichever way you're most happy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in a few tail lines like this on her fins. And then I'm going to do the same with my darker pink, or my mid pink, should I say. So just, we want it to look like there's layers of fins and they've got the lines on that they do. And then I'm going to do the same with my darkest pink. So, but what I'm going to do is have them overlapping. Because they're see-through, we're going to have them so that they just overlap each other a bit. Like that. Oh, lovely. Fantastic, Emma. Beautiful job. I see you've got a glamorous assistant who's cleaning your brushes for you. Yeah, do you want to come over here and clean my brushes for me too? They've got to have their uses somehow, haven't they, these parents? So give me a bit of a thumbs up when you've done that. Oh, lovely. Beautiful. Really lovely colours. These colours work really well together, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Tony, can I show you my picture?
Do you remember every time you ask me if you can show me your picture and every time I say you don't have to ask? So you don't have to ask, you can just show me. Oh, lovely. Fantastic job. So when you're ready, give me a thumbs up and we can move on. Yeah, 1, 2. Oh no, Melody, that was a big no. Oh, okay, that's a yes. Right, okay. Oh, lovely. That's fantastic. Beautiful colours. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave this to dry and we're going to work on her hair now. And what we're going to do is we're going to use some lovely pale colours. So pale bluey greens again. And just like we did with the background, we're going to do these lovely swirly shapes. So where we did that kind of bump on the left hand side, we're going to come from the top of her head, we're going to come round and put those in. And then we're going to come down on the right hand side and do these flicks. And I'm going to do a couple of bits with a larger brush, and then I'm going to switch over to my smaller brush and just put, don't put lots of individual hairs, because when you're painting hair, you kind of do it in clumps and then do little individual ones afterwards. If you paint every individual hair, it doesn't look quite as good. So particularly in sort of cartoony and stylized things. So what we're going to do is, starting at the very top of her head, we're going to come across her face and down. And if you've gone a bit wrong with your arms or anything like that, you can always paint a few strands of thin hair over those to hide them. Okay, so using the same colour, if it hasn't dried out, use the same colour as you've used in your background. Add some more white to it. So mine's starting to dry out a bit. I need to add some white and some water. And you definitely want it to be paler than this background hair colour that we've already done. Okay, so it might be a case of you need to add a bit of blue and white and a tiny spot of green again. You could have it just the blue if you want to keep it really kind of, you want to make sure you've got enough difference between your hair and your background colour, but you don't want masses. We still want to keep those pearly, pale pearly colours on her. And then using, again, 1/2 inch brush, I'm going to start off with that one and then move to a thinner one afterwards. So at the very top of her head, so at her 12 o'clock, I'm going to paint on her head and I'm going to come out and I'm going to come, how have I done that one originally? Down, in. Mermaid hair is particularly spectacular. So we want to have it all kind of swirling around her and looking absolutely gorgeous, like mermaid hair does. And then I'm going to come across again. So I'm going to give her a little bit of a fringe on this stroke. I'm going to come across her face and then I'm going to join up with my first stroke. And then I'm going to break off again and come down. So the hair, when you paint hair, it kind of goes wide and then narrow and then wider again. So I'm now with this next stroke. So I've got her fringe here and I'm going to come across and in. This one I'm going to make a lot shorter. So I'm not going to go as wide as I am with the others. You could even bring it over across in front of her tail if you wanted to. That would look really nice. So as you're painting, hopefully you can see that what we've done is we've got the background shadow of her hair that we've already done. So if you look at mine, you can see it's darker underneath around behind my neck. But then where the light, oh, lovely, Emma, where the light shines on top, it's paler. So that's kind of what we're doing. And I'm also going to make some of these clumps a bit wider. That sounds really unglamorous, clumps of hair, doesn't it? I'm then going to do the same on this side, but I'm going to go around her arm, unless you want to hide some of her arm if you've gone a little bit wonky. So I'm going to come, starting at that same place on her top of her head, I'm going to come out and I'm going to come around. I think I might do a few little flicks around, minding her hand and then down. And I'm going to also do some around the arm and behind her body like that. Wow, mine's got real mermaid hair. I'm just going to come round and join up with her hand like that. Beautiful. And then I'm going to switch to a thinner brush and I'm going to do some individual strands of hair, not loads, but just a few that come off and join up like this with my main colour. So it just looks good when you do a few. So don't be tempted to do too many. And we're also going to come back and give her some highlights as well. So we don't need to do loads for now. And I think I'm going to do one that's going to go across her arm there. So you can also, if you want to, do the odd one across her face. I'd get her features in before I do the very last bits on her hair though. So we're going to leave her hair to dry for a bit, and we're going to come down and work on her scales. We can also start to put in some bubbles if we want to. So good ways of painting things like scales and bubbles. If you've got a cotton bud, so one of these are really good for painting spots. If you haven't got one of those, it doesn't matter, just use a nice round brush. So I've got a round brush here, like a nice chunky one. You want one with quite short bristles. So, but it's up to you whether you go with a round brush like this one or with a cotton bud. It doesn't matter either way. It's just a little bit quicker with a cotton bud.
Can I use this really thin brush?
You can, but you're going to get really tiny. You'll get really tiny spots with it. So I would go with, let's see, what size have we got? Just like a normal sort of like a size 5 or 4, kind of, not a tiny brush. So Sarah, I don't know if you heard that. You don't need a cotton bud. You can just use a round brush. So yeah, no worries. So only reason I say a cotton bud is good because A, it's quite quick because you just dab and you do get a slightly rounder shape, but that's all. That's the only reason why they're quite good for this. So what I'm going to do on my left hand side of my mermaid's tail, I'm going to put some white spots like this. So this is like the light shining on her tail, and don't go any further than the middle. The downside to cotton buds is that sometimes you get a bit of a thread hanging off and you don't get a perfect circle. And I'm going to go right the way down to that narrowest point and then stop. So while we've got this white out and we've done that, you can also put in some bubbles. So I'm going to put some bubbles in up here. So when you do your bubbles, try and get lots of different sizes. And I like to do them in a zigzag like that. So, and I do some that are bigger, some that are smaller. And what I tend to do is come back with a small brush and do some more as well. I'm going to do some more down here as well. So things like that always look better if you put them in clusters of colour. You can do some going across her tail. That'll look really good as well. So you can use just use your cotton bud, or you just use your round brush. And you could put a few over here. I'm going to put a couple of fish in towards the end, so I'm going to put some bubbles in for those. And then once I've done that, I'm going to put that to one side for a minute, use a smaller brush, and I'm just going to pop some more white. Oh, mine's looking a bit pinky there. Put some smaller ones in as well. It always looks really nice if you've got a variety of sizes with your bubbles. So there we go. Oh, lovely. Fantastic, Emma. We're going to do the same again on the right hand side, but we're going to use the darker, so darker pink, or if you've used red to make your pink, you can go with red. And I'm just going to go along the right hand side of her tail and the middle like this. So I'm not going to cross over into the where we've done the white. When you've done that, give me a little thumbs up. Cool. So we've got the pale white scales down the left-hand side and the bright darker pink or red down the right-hand side. While we've got our pink out, we'd better give her some seashells, give her a bit of modesty, hadn't we? So I'm going to use my mid pink, but you can use whatever pink you've got available. And I'm going to just where those two, that figure 8 was that we put earlier, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. So I've got 3 lines. So I might actually go over a slightly darker one so it shows a bit better for you guys. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, like that, to give her a seashell, and then 2 little spots underneath. And I'm going to do the same again. So 1, oh, that's too pale. So 1, 2, 3. So just round the bottom off. And then 2 little spots underneath to get my shell shape. While you've got your pink out, you can also give her some bracelets if you want to. So just see how many you want. Particularly that top arm, as she's reaching up, her bracelets would move down her arms a bit. How are we all getting on? We all ready to move on? Yeah? Yeah, cool. Oh, lovely. Fantastic. So what we're going to do next is we're going to put in her smile and also, well, the teeth of her smile and also the whites of her eyes. So this right hand eye is kind of tucking behind her hair, so we can only see a little bit of it. And we can see her left one. So this is quite cartoony. So she's got really big eyes. And then what we're going to do is like the slice of an orange for her mouth. So as you can see, we've got her mouth goes in that point where our chin was. So we're just going to use pure white. And you might find it's easiest to do her mouth first, because that will give you somewhere to line up her eyes from. So where that chin was, that point of that chin that we added the neck to, with a small amount of paint on our brush, I'm going to basically do like an orange slice. So we're going to go across at the top and then a little curve underneath. Okay, so the bigger you do this, the bigger her smile will be. And then if you imagine 2 lines that go straight up to her forehead. Yeah, lovely. So we're going to have 2 lines that go straight up. So we're going to imagine this line that comes up, and then on the right hand side, we're just going to do as much of her eye as we can see poking out from underneath her hair. And then if you imagine, again, so a line coming up from the left hand side. Yeah, lovely. We're going to have a line coming up from the left hand side, and when you're level with the other eye, we're going to do a great big, so we're going to have this line that goes underneath, and then a big arched, much more arched line over the top. So, and as she's cartoony, go really big with her eyes. She's not meant to look realistic, so go really big with her eyes. Emma, do you know what? If you want to, you could go even bigger with her eyes. Okay. And while we've got the white out, we can start to also put in some of her pearls. So I'm going to start to dot white pearls all around her, and she's dripping, absolutely dripping with pearls. So I'm going to dot those, lots of them all around her neck. I'm going to have them go around her wrists, up her arms, just lots and lots of dots of white. I'm going to go, where should I go? I'm going to go round this arm here. You can do them in her hair as well. So I don't know if you've ever had a necklace and you've wrapped it around your arm like it's a bracelet. I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to do them round her waist, like this, wrapping across. You can do them round her tail if you want to. I'm going to come across again, actually. So you can do them as well. You could do them coming between her shells, like that. And also, if you want to, I'm going to do them some going through almost like a crown on her head. So I've left a little bit of a gap because I'm going to put some roots on her, some darker roots in her hair. And I'm going to come down again. Like that. Could also start to put in some of the highlights in her hair. So using my white, I'm going to start to run just a few, predominantly down at the bottom of her hair. I'm going to run. Oh, lovely, Emma. Fantastic. I'm going to run some more up like this. So I'm going from where we painted up and into her hair. Like this, and I'm going to come across. Let's do a few more. And I'm going to do some on the other side. Fantastic. Oh, I wish I had hair like this. I've had blue hair before, but it wasn't like this. It was like a darker blue. So I'm not going up too close to the darker area that we did earlier because I'm going to put some shadows in there. What you can also do at this point, if you want to, is put in her pink highlights, her pink streaks. So I'm going to give my brush a bit of a wash out and I'm going to grab myself some pink. And I'm going to just brush some through. I'm not going to put loads of pink in. So she's definitely more streaks than kind of like masses of pink. I think it's, you know, like those clip-in extensions that you can get. I think she's more those. Awesome. While I've got my pink on my brush, what I'm going to do is do her mouth as well. So make sure that you get most of the pink off before you do this, because you wouldn't want to go sort of all big and splodgy. But what we're going to do is you want to do across the top of her mouth with a line. And then ideally with the bottom part, at the corners, you want to go as fine as you possibly can. So a bit narrower. And then as you come down to the bottom of her mouth, go a little bit wider and then come narrower again. So her lips are fatter in the middle, just like yours, and then thinner as they go out towards the sides of your mouth. How's everyone getting on? Oh, beautiful. That looks lovely, Emma. Fantastic job. So if you're still doing your hair, carry on with that. If you're ready to move on, we're going to put the irises in her eyes. So we're going to start off with a pale blue or the green. It really doesn't matter which colour you use. So we just want to, you could have pale pink if you wanted, but we just need to do in the middle of the white of our eye, a pale circle. So if you can fit it in, if it wants to go in the right hand eye, then do that as well. But don't try and squeeze it in if there's not space. So, because each one of our pictures will be laid out slightly differently. So just do what you can fit in. Oh, lovely. That's why it's by making the eyes that bit bigger, it makes her look really pretty. Where's everyone got to? Are they onto the eyes now, or does anyone need me to recap that? No? Yeah, do you want me to recap it and say it again? Yeah? Okay, so where have you got to? Have you done the streaks in her hair? Yeah? Okay, so all we did, we used a pale blue or green. It doesn't matter which one, just one of the paler colours that we've already used. And we've just gone over her eye with us in the middle, the very middle of it, with a pale blue or green colour, and we've just put in a circle. That's all we want to do. So we definitely want to do it on this eye, on the left hand side, but only do it on the right hand eye if you can really see kind of quite a big bit of the eye. If you can only see a little bit, then don't worry about doing that at all. When you've got your eye in, give me another thumbs up and let me know. Lovely. Fantastic. Cool. Okay. Cara, how are you guys getting on?
We've got quite a bit behind, so we might have to catch up later.
Oh no, where have you got to? Oh, she's lovely though.
We've got a baby.
Oh, that'll be why you've got behind, because you got two.
Well, might be to do with the children were having a little fight earlier as well.
Oh, okay.
That's the fears.
Oh, lovely.
The lady's she's done her drawing now.
Well, yeah. Oh. So I'll carry on, Cara, and then I can catch you guys up at the end. Yeah, cool. So what we're going to use now is our darkest blue again. So right from the beginning where we got the blue straight out of the tube, we're going to use that. Yeah?
Honey, I wanted to say that I'm falling behind.
But don't worry, because what we'll do, I'll carry on and then I'll catch you guys up at the end, all right?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. So I'm going to... so what I'm going to do is use this blue. So this was my dark blue straight out of the tube. I'm going to add some water to it. And so I'm going to do a smaller circle in the middle of my eyes. I'm also going to give her some roots, and down in the shadows of my hair, I'm going to put some lines in. So, oh, she needs eyebrows as well. So I'm going to go smaller circle in the middle. And if you can see both irises, you might just be able to see a little bit like that. She looks a bit scary at the moment. I think she needs some eyelashes. So what I'm going to do is leave the underneath, and I'm going to do a line that goes just over the top. Go with quite a fine one. And if you want to, it looks really cool if you go fine on the inside and get a bit wider on the outside, and then just do this little flick. You can do one or two little eyelashes. And then on the right hand eye, just do a little bit of an eyelash over the top, like that. So I'm going to do the same with my eyebrows. So I'm going to do a little line. She looks a bit scary now without eyebrows. So if I put an eyebrow in, so just a thin line in that darker blue. You might only be able to see one because of the way her hair falls. If you're like me and you've got a bit of fringe going over the top, then only do the one. And then what I'm going to do down here, just like I did the highlights, I'm going to do some lines that is going to go through her hair. Like this. And I'm also going to do these up here in the top of her hair. So I need to add a bit more water to my paint. So mainly in the background, but a few bits on the roots of her hair and down in the shadow bits, like that. My one's eyes. Oh, beautiful. Fantastic. My one's eyes look a bit scary, but what will make mine look a bit better is if I put a white dot just like that on each one. And that suddenly makes her look a lot less scary. So whenever you paint eyes, always put that little white dot in to highlight the eyes, and it just makes them shiny and really brings it to life. Give me a thumbs up when you've done that. Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm going to grab myself that yellow from earlier. Oh, beautiful, Emma. She looks very cute. And with my yellow, what I'm going to do, so I'll grab the original so you guys can see. I'm going to put some starfish in her hair, give her some yellow bracelets, and I'm also going to put some fish in. So I'm going to start off, I'm using still quite a small brush, and I'm going, the same one that I use for doing all of her pearls. So I'm going to start off where there's a gap, so you don't have to go in the same spot as I am at all. I'm going to go with a fish. So I'm going to do 2 little lines like that. And then what I'm going to do is 1 line coming out from that, and then a kind of a bump that goes on the top that joins it. So that's quite a good little basic fish shape. And then off of the top of the bump, I'm going to do another bump, and then I'm going to do 2 little lines underneath. And when we put some stripes on that fish, that'll look awesome. So another fish shape that we can do is we can do some long thin ones. So I'm going to do a long thin brush stroke like that. I'm going to do another one on top of it. So they're going to a bit of a point on the right hand side, and then again I'm going to do a bump on the top of each. That's going to be the big fin on the back. I'm going to do 2 little bumps underneath, and then when we meet the tail, I'm going to do 2 bigger bumps coming off like that. So once we put some more marks on that, that'll look good. In her hair, I'm going to put some starfish. So I'm going to do basically 5 little lines that come out from a central point. So 1, 2, 3. Because this is a bit like painting a star, but we don't want it to be solid in between. So that's why we're going to do it in lines rather than in kind of triangles. You can put another one over here if you want. So because this is kind of going round her head, you wouldn't necessarily see all 5. Or if you did, the one on the outside would be a bit shorter. I'm going to do one over on this side as well. And then we could put some yellow bangles in. It's quite nice to use colours that we've used elsewhere in our painting to help tie it all together. So you might find with the yellow, you need to just go over it, give it a little touch up because it's going a bit green. Doesn't that yellow really brighten it up and make her look so much brighter? Yeah, it does make such a difference. Once you've done that, give me another thumbs up. Cool. Okay, we're going to go back next to some of that brown that we used earlier on for making our flesh colour. And using a really fine brush, a really thin, skinny one, what we're going to do, so really super fine brush for this one, skinniest one you've got. So just above her mouth, we're going to do a little line. That's going to be her nose. Where we had the point of her chin over her neck, we're going to do a little line there. And where her arm goes across her body, so she's already got all her jewellery on, so we're just going to do a little broken line across her body, where her in between her jewellery to break it up. And then finally, that central point that we had a little tummy button on, we're going to put that in. Once you've done that, whatever colours you've got left over that you've used elsewhere, you can pop some more fish on, and you can also do some lines on your fish that you've got in some of those colours. So I think I'll put one up here. I'm going to do another one of those. So you can put as many fish on as you want to. So I'm going to just do that one. It's like a similar shape to we did for her eye. And then I can put two little tail fins on, a bump for its top fin, and then two little downwards ones like that. And just use up whatever colours it is that you've got left over. So for example, I could use a little bit of a brown to put a stripe on that one. I can use a bit of brown for an eye on these two. I can use blue, I can use whatever colours I've got left over. And the reason that you use those colours again is because it helps to make your painting all tie in together. So sometimes if you use particularly like different colours in one part of a painting and not in another, then it can look a bit funny. But by using the same colours in little areas, you help tie the painting in, and it kind of helps to make it all look like one picture rather than a couple of pictures that have been stuck together. So I'm going to do a little bit of a white stripe on my one up here, I think. And then I'm going to give it, I haven't used black, so I'm going to use brown. Just give it a little bit of a brown eye there. So cool. And there we have it. So I'm going to stop the recording now, and then I can help any of you guys who need me to recap any bits. So I'm not saying bye to you guys, I'm just saying bye to the recording. So thanks for watching, and I'd love to see your pictures that you paint of this put on the group. Bye.